Hi, everyone. I'm Shaheen from the Content Mix, and I'm excited to be here with William Lawrie, Digital Marketing Manager for JLL, a leading professional services firm that specializes in real estate and investment management. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So first, can you tell us a bit about your background and how did you end up in marketing?
Yeah. Well, I got a mixed background, Brazilian English, grew up in both places. Kind of did a hospitality major actually, so I did all the operations, front desk, spa worker, cleaned the toilets, did all the stuff, and decided I'd rather work in marketing, and I managed to get a job in a hotel for marketing, and that's kind of where I dipped my first toe into marketing. I really liked it. I did digital marketing, kind of actually did a finance degree at the same time, thinking, I want to be a bit more consultant, do finance. I did that for a bit, but it wasn't quite my fit. So actually for the same company, JLL, but in Brazil. Then I wanted to do my MBA, and that's really where I realized, which was in IE Madrid, and that's really where I realized I wanted to do marketing, and I really enjoyed tech side of it and all the analytical side. So that's what I wanted to pursue after leaving the MBA. So I managed to get a job at a digital marketing agency in the UK, which is, if you don't have experience in the UK, it's always good to have a bit of experience to get another job. It's because they really see that as a plus, and it's really difficult to get a job without experience in the UK. And then I managed to go back to my old company, JLL, which is going through a digital transformation phase. And as a digital marketing manager, originally I was hired for primarily to focus on the residential side, but after a bit of restructuring, I'm a bit more on the operational side and help out in different departments, do project management, account management, and operational more side of the digital marketing.
And so how does what you do relate to content marketing?
Yeah. What I like to call myself, to make it easier to understand, is sort of the account manager of the different business lines. So there's different business lines within JLL because it's a very large company. So there's residential, capital markets, and such, and it goes on and on. My primary focus is still residential, but I do help out with other business lines. And so I'm sort of the account manager. I'm the person who they talk to if they want to talk to digital marketing. And then we have a wonderful team which I work with, and they around, and they specialize in different things such as SEO, digital marketing, performance, and ABM. And then they also have a content marketing manager, but they focus primarily not on the online side of it. So I have a general expertise. I don't know everything. I still don't know everything. I'm always learning. I probably will always be learning. But I have a general knowledge where I can provide them what the best practices are for content and online media, digital marketing, and social media. I sometimes have to improve myself. I have to test myself, and sometimes I have to ask questions and test them to say, do you think that? And do you think that's the best practice? Do you think we should go other way? So they kind of think a bit more in a digital way, since it's slightly new. And in the end, marketing will end up meshing with digital marketing. So they have to be just as savvy. So I try to help educate as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, well, for those who don't know, can you just give us a brief overview of what JLL does? I mean, it's a huge company. I'm sure lots of people are familiar, but just a quick overview.
JLL is a complicated one because it's real estate. But I think the best way to describe it in the simplest fashion is it does everything in real estate except own the buildings and build the buildings. So everything else you can think of, it does. It does consulting for hotels and real estate. It does how best to structure the offices, how to design the offices, selling offices, and it's just not just hotels or buildings or corporate buildings. There's also houses, small houses. So they do from everything you can think of, really. They're just a massive company in real estate.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And you said that, I mean, you're essentially working like an account manager. So what's your day-to-day like? I mean, what's your typical day?
A typical day. It's all emails and talking and stakeholder relationships and project management. So every day in the morning, I try to, I catch up on my emails and make sure I respond to people's questions and see if they're doing the best practices, or maybe they want to implement something on the website, or they're thinking of a marketing campaign. And if they think of a marketing campaign, which they're thinking of, and they tell me, then that's when I get all the stakeholders together, all the experts, the performance marketing, and then the content marketing of the offline, as well as maybe SEO people, or talk with the product manager of the actual site and put them together in a room and try to figure out what is the customer journey end to end, because you really have to sync. Not only the content has to be in sync with the offline stuff as well, otherwise it won't work as well. And sometimes if you post a photo, for example, on social media, that person's going to relate to that photo. Maybe he's going to try and search with that photo, and it's easier for that person to find it on the website. If he sees that photo on the website, that's related to that. So you kind of have to put them all together, and also project manage besides account managing.
So, well, correct me if I'm wrong in understanding, but are you basically, rather than working on like the global content for JLL itself, you're like working on content for particular projects?
Yes, for more on residential. I talk a lot with the marketing team, which with residential, and say what are the best practices on social media, how it can improve. And then I do work in bits throughout Europe and sometimes global on different projects, depending on if they need more resources, and I can come in to help and do different projects.
So you're basically consulting.
It's a bit complicated. Yeah, it's a bit of a consulting the clients, a bit of like an agency within the company, and you could talk about it as like a consultant almost. It's not an easy one to. I've had that question several times, and it's not the easiest way to not the easiest role to describe, but
do you have an example of like a recent campaign that you've done, something you've worked on that we can check out?
I mean, we did a few months ago, we released the Living campaign. So the Living is, to put in simple terms, is the B2B side of a residential market. And we released it all together under a new brand. I didn't come up with the name and everything. It was the marketing team, but we needed to help the plan with the digital marketing, and also work together with the other European countries, since it's a Europe-wide campaign. And it's basically saying, we are the thought leaders, we're here, we're putting all these together. The services within that B2B are, for example, students, also healthcare. So, for example, where the older population need to be healthcare taken in their houses. I forgot the exact name. And other such services, which are all put together under one umbrella and kind of go under the residential brand. So we really needed to promote this and create brand awareness and throughout. So we had to release it in Portugal, Germany, and other countries all together. And we worked with the marketing team, the performance team, and several of the stakeholders in our different countries. And I'm very fortunate to have stakeholders in different countries in Europe, which makes it a lot easier to do a European campaign because they bring their expertise to the table. So that's one. You could probably see it on LinkedIn. It's more of a paid campaign, so it'll be difficult to find exactly the campaign organically, but it did pretty well, and we're going through different phases to release that in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a lot of what you're doing is like paid campaigns through social media and stuff like that.
Yes, we do a lot of paid campaigns. We are also trying to build a social, improved and larger social media organic social media network for the residential in the UK as well, since it is actually relatively new to JLL. For you who don't, for maybe some of you who don't know that JLL do residential, that is actually pretty normal, because we started off as mostly a doing buildings and offices. So residential is actually relatively new to us because we just started that recently, while other real estate firms, big ones, started as residential and went to corporate. So it's an interesting and challenging time, and I enjoy working with that a lot to build the brand of the residential.
Yeah, and you mentioned this campaign that you did that was across Europe. So that brings me to the question of just like what challenges do you face working in the European market, or opportunities?
Yeah, so there are always challenges to work in the European market because there's several campaigns. This is such a big company. This is relating to such a large company in general. It might not be the same for smaller companies, but there are so many campaigns going on, so many different marketing managers in different countries. And then you got different holidays, which is something you don't think of sometimes. And you have to think about the holidays and the timings and scheduling with everyone. So that's one of the things you have to really talk to everyone and say, can you do that? Do you have resources to do that, to build out, to help think about that? And when can you do it? Oh, I have a campaign, so maybe you have to push back what budget. Also, you have to think about the budget you're going to release in each country, because some markets aren't as big as the others. So you have to think about the ROI. And then you also have to think about the content in general. Europe, we're fairly lucky in Europe because there isn't massive cultural differences within the continent. So it makes it a bit easier to adapting social media, especially B2B. But you do have to, what we realize is they do perform better in their own language. So you always have to make sure you have someone translating or someone who's knowledgeable about the country, the market, because it's not really good enough for you yourself to translate. And then sometimes you always have to make sure that the translator has expertise in either social media or real estate or the industry that you're in, to make sure that you translate properly, because sometimes a person who doesn't know the industry well might not translate the word in the fashion you want. So you really have to make sure that that's done properly as well. And of course, the performance is a lot better if you do translate it in a proper way and it's in their own language, for several reasons. One, the person engages more with the campaign, plus it usually tends to perform better on the social media when it's in their own language.
And do you manage all of that, or is some of that done at the local level? Or
the paid campaigns, are lucky to have a team which are very knowledgeable about that, and they do the performance campaigns and they target the right audience. They have all the knowledge of the audiences and a bit of testing, and they do dynamic ads to see which is best, and really see it perform. And it's always a good rule of thumb, especially with a big campaign, you do it a bit small at the beginning to make sure how it goes, see if it's performed as well, test it out, and then you don't want to spend all your money at once at the beginning and just test it out and then put all the money in. So it's have a great team to work around that, and they do a lot of work, and they're all day working on those campaigns. I'm very fortunate to have them. Otherwise, I'll be super busy as well, and I don't know it as well as they do.
Yeah, it sounds like a huge coordinated effort.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I was just curious if you have any advice for those who are looking to get into digital marketing with a large corporate such as JLL.
Large corporate or JLL. Well, I think it's always good to have some expertise first, because otherwise you're going to have to start small and it's a bit difficult. So maybe the best ways, I was fortunate enough to find the agencies, and there's several digital marketing agencies which are around, which aren't that big. So, and when you look at digital marketing requirements, or even any marketing requirements, a lot of them say, I want agency experience. And since there's so many, they're so small, just try and maybe find an agency just to get some experience. And you don't have to be that long, but it does give you a bit of insight. It gives you a bit more knowledge. You live with it every day. And I think that will give you some great leverage into going to digital marketing. Otherwise, if you don't want to go that route, you really have to prove yourself in another way by maybe getting certified in all the maybe the Google AdWords certifications, which are free, Google Analytics as well, which I think is one of the most important things from my standpoint, especially operationally, because I have to answer to so many stakeholders and keep them happy. And maybe Facebook ads. I mean, all of them, there's free courses you can find about pretty much all the digital campaign, digital marketing platforms, and just do them and get certified if you don't want to. I mean, you can do it in your free time while you're studying. That will really give you a leg up.
Because you mentioned that JLL is going through this digital transformation, so I guess that means there's more demand for these kinds of digital marketing profiles.
Yeah, I mean, it's nowadays there is more digital marketing requirements, but I think now as you come along and as you go more into the future, you see that they'll become one-on-one with marketing. They won't be just, I'm not sure if it'll be specialized in just digital marketing. It'll have to have the whole knowledge of just also marketing and digital marketing. I think it's becoming such a big part of our lives that it's normal now to do digital marketing. It goes hand in hand. You don't expect to do it. It's really difficult to do a marketing campaign without digital marketing.
Yeah,
so
all marketers have to be digital marketers now.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a high demand, and I think if you want to get your hand into marketing, I think there is a certain benefit to knowing digital marketing now, slightly sometimes more than marketing, especially during these times, during COVID, when most of the engagement is actually at home. And yeah, I don't know how it's going to be after we come out of it, but it's probably going to be more online, more digital now, especially if we see more remote workers. They're not going to be, and there's not going to be as much people transiting to their workplace, which is most of the transit in the world is usually for business orientated rather than leisure orientated. So you're going to have to focus more on the digital marketing side and become unique and relevant and differentiate yourself.
So how has this lockdown situation impacted you in your job?
I unfortunately can't specify, go into that much detail.
Well, I mean, about the plans, maybe not like in terms of how it impacted your marketing, but maybe how it impact your day-to-day at work.
Day-to-day at work, I mean, there's more time to do things, kind of take advantage to maybe learn more, improve your expertise. That's one of the benefits of this lockdown, is kind of you can do that and do some hygiene factors, of course, organize yourself, make sure you come out stronger than you come in. And that's what one of my things I said to myself when we started this lockdown is I refuse to come out the same than coming in, and refuse to get this pandemic get the better of me. So hopefully just take advantage of the time and learn and get better and come out with better skills, and make sure that the time to organize, you use that. And so you come out ready to plan and ready to come out with plans and campaigns and everything at the get-go, before the rest of your competitors. So
so that brings me to the recommendations part of the interview. But you mentioned continued learning. Is there one thing in particular you've been studying lately, or any course you could recommend?
I've been doing so many courses, so it's a bit absurd. Because I'm trying to build up my skills in general in several things, because I see it's very useful. Skills like, for example, I didn't know that much about CSS and HTML. And I realized that I actually used it a lot, not specifically for digital marketing, but for the websites. And I think it's good to know, especially also because you use it for email marketing. And if you want to go into email marketing, that becomes very useful to know the coding. It makes a bit more sense, everything. And it actually helps with the SEO, which is relevant to digital marketing as well, because the better the campaign, the landing page, the better the performance. So there's things in SEO, for example, to improve the performance, such as H1 tags which I knew what it was, but I didn't really know it until I did the HTML. And now I know it. It makes sense now that I do HTML. So there's other things. So then I'm just doing UX, which is trying to do UX courses, which to me is actually, I think, really important for everything, not just websites, but also digital marketing, because it really gets into the psychology of how people interact with pages, photos, and how one of the most interesting things I think I got out of the course was when a person looks at a page or something, they look in an F shape. So they look at the top two lines and then they take notice of that. And then they don't really look at the bottom right, but they just skim through the left of the screen. So you really have to think of where you're placing your objects and where you're putting your content to capture the eye, because especially in digital marketing, you have extremely little time to capture the attention, and they're scrolling like crazy. So you really have to know how to capture the attention in the best way possible.
Yeah, definitely seems super relevant. Is there a particular course that you took recently?
There's one on Udemy, a UX one. I don't remember the exact name right now, but if you look at Udemy, and it's the highest rated UX course on Udemy, and usually the courses on Udemy are a lot cheaper. They do. There's the full price, but they're always doing sales, so it's kind of they do the emergency marketing tactic where they sometimes you see 200, but wait a second, and they usually like £10, and you get a certificate, and it's massive, and you can have it there for the rest of your life, and you can refer back to it. And I haven't even completed certifications really, because it's just a lot, and I want to learn about different things, and I don't need everything. But it's almost like having a textbook and go back and refer to it. It's like, how can I improve myself? How can I suggest something in the company? Because in the end, I guess everyone wants to grow in the company. So it's really good to have those referrals and think about new ways and push the boundaries a bit by studying.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Udemy also.
Taking
a few courses in the lockdown myself. And then, a couple other things I wanted to ask if you had recommendations on any app or tool that you use in your job.
So we just got Hootsuite. Hootsuite's great. Helps scheduling for a large corporation. You can schedule, plan, so you can really see where everyone's deciding to put their digital marketing campaigns, or where they're going to post organically, because we got a lot of organic posts, and you don't want to do spam and spam people. So you really have to make sure it's like 1 to 2 or 3 posts a day to make sure you're not annoying people. And also you get a lot of analytics, and you can respond there. So you got all the social platforms. So it makes it a lot easier to interact on social media, which is so important with social media. Is you have to make sure the brand is humanized, and you engage with them, because that's the point of it in the end. You want to seem like a human to them. You want them to build a emotional connection and not just be seen as a brand. And that's the point of social media in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just also want to ask you if you have any recommendations on how to stay up to date on marketing trends, any publications you follow.
Yeah. I do a lot of, there's Twitter, which I like Twitter because you can go through the thought. I follow like Fast Company, for example, TechCrunch. Fast Company I especially like because I think they got very innovative things, and then they talk about different companies which they're doing innovations, and I prefer that than actually following a singular company, because I do think there are companies and there are people who do great campaigns, but there's always consistent companies doing different things. So I think you need to learn a bit from every person and take that together rather than just one person, and bring that all together in one point. So Twitter's a great place to follow these and get these trends and keep up to date, because then you keep a thought leadership. I don't really follow anyone, just news. And e-consultancy is actually pretty good. It has a lot of trends going on forwards, especially digital marketing trends. Sometimes it's subscription, sometimes some things are free, some are subscription based, but they usually have a lot of information of upcoming trends. But you can usually Google news, Google everything and find out if you really want to and go behind it. I think the important thing is do the courses, learn the foundations, and then the trends, just try and keep up to date in news, to be honest.
And then how about an event or an industry group?
So there's the Adobe Summit, which was good. The Adobe bring together all their clients, and they actually bring. Of course, they try to sell the product, but they also they bring together thought leaders in different things, and show the trends in different industries, because they're experts in different industries. So you really see what is going through the mind of people, and what's, like, for example, customer experience is one of the big up and coming demands, and that's what companies are investing in now. And the last Adobe Summit, they actually had a panel with, they interviewed 3 Gen Z people, which are the people who are now consuming media, and then the up and coming demographic target, sorry. And it was interesting because they were talking about going into fashion websites or fashion brands and social media, and they're expecting the brands to already suggest what they want. They're expecting them to know already without you searching. It's like, this is what I want. So you're really going to have to go into analytics and automation, really focus on those things in the future. And so the social media, you're going to really have to probably specifically in social media, you're going to really have to target niches even more to focus and make it even better, to get a better ROI and better conversions from social media, and target in a very small niche and become micro targeting almost in the future, I think.
Super interesting. So, well, we're about out of time, but just if you haven't, do you have any parting thoughts for those who want to advance in their marketing careers in Europe?
One thing, I guess, is to network. I was horrible. I'm horrible at networking. I have so much anxiety out of networking, and I always hear people say that. And I've just started doing it a bit more because I wanted to be a bit more knowledgeable and try and just, and people are more friendly than you realize, because to build up my knowledge, I really wanted to talk to people. So just message them on LinkedIn. Of course, do like a note or something and say, I want to talk. You won't get an answer, but just press that button. I think that's one of the most helpful things to get into marketing, because you're going to have to network as well nowadays, because if you want jobs, it's more difficult to get through the system with keywords, and there's so many applicants nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe start a podcast.
Maybe start a podcast.
Good way to meet people.
Yeah, I haven't reached that. You're well far ahead about than other people. So you're definitely going to be, your network is going to be massive in a few years. A lot larger.
I hope so. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I really appreciated hearing your insights.
No, thank you so much. It was great to be here, and it was nice to talk to someone besides my flatmates.
Awesome. And thanks everybody else for listening in. For more perspectives on the content marketing industry in Europe, check out thecontentmix.com. We'll also be releasing a lot more interviews like this one in the coming days, so keep tuning in. See you next time.